Councillor Cassidy to join us today as the Community Council Champion for item 8. So he'll join us and contribute to that item, and he can take part in the debate, but he is not allowed to vote. And now we'll move to apologies, substitutions and declarations of interest. Over to you, Lindsay. What was it called?
Convener, there are no apologies. So we'll move to a roll call. And the following councillors please indicate if they're present at the meeting. Councillor Armstrong.
Present in the chamber.
Councillor Brennan.
In the chamber.
Councillor Brooks.
In chamber.
Councillor Curley.
Present in chamber.
Councillor Law. Councillor McCabe.
Present remotely.
Councillor McCormick.
Present remotely.
Councillor Maguire.
Present.
Councillor McVeigh.
In chamber.
Councillor Moran.
In the chamber.
Councillor Robertson.
Present in the chamber.
Are there any declarations of interest?
That's Curley.
Just on agenda item number 5, it talks about Glasgow 250. It talks about partner organisations. I organised the Glasgow 10K, which should hopefully run this year, Touchwood, and if it is so, be part of the 250 celebrations.
Okay, noted. Anybody else? No. Okay. So we've crossed the business for today. So item number 2 is the revenue report, and Angela is going to take us through that. Oh, sorry, Alan. I've got apologies, Alan.
I didn't know I was going to make an excuse. I was looking for Angela, but she's in Canada.
All right. Okay. Definitely not intended to do.
So this report is the latest updates in terms of the committee's own revenue budget and the general fund revenue budget. And the report highlights the improved position in both the committee and the overall revenue budget. This in turn leads to an improved projected reserve position at 31st of March 2025. Appendix 9 includes the latest workstream update, which is also printed in A3 for those of you with hard copies. And I would like to advise that following a detailed review of the utility saving, I'm able to report a further £300,000 workstream saved in 25-26 based on the information that we received last week from those who procure electricity and gas on behalf of councils. This will be factored into the future budget reports, and I'll obviously update members' budget working group and others appropriately. All the above, as I say, will be factored into the 25-26 budget report, and clearly the council has agreed to hold a special meeting on the 6th of March to agree the budget and council tax. I'm happy to answer any questions on the report. Thank you.
Okay, colleagues, does anybody have any questions for Ms. Patton? Ms. Councillor Armstrong?
Thanks very much, convener. It's not really a question. It's page 15 in appendix 9. The item on asset management. It's just I think it needs to be updated because it says later in 2024, and I think it'd be better if it was a bit more up to date. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Curley?
Yeah, thanks. And noting that the increase in the £300,000 for the energy saving. So just for my own benefit, so that will be a saving anticipated in 25-26, and will that now increase then overall saving to 1.25 million? What about the numbers on the table?
To convene, yes, to both those questions, and obviously the way that just to advise elected members, the way the gas and electricity are bought is they're bought throughout the year and probably the preceding year. So it's bought in batches. Obviously, just about all the 25-26 gas and electricity is now bought to the far greater certain levels. And we've already bought some of 26-27. It's a relatively low percentage, and that will continue to get bought. And it will be one to consider as part of the 26-27 budget process, whether there's further savings in 26-27.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come in on this item? No. Okay, so just before we continue, I realise I have forgotten to read the opening statement. I've welcomed everybody, but I haven't done the legal bit that we need to do. So I'll go back and do that just to keep us compliant. So apologies, colleagues. So this meeting is being held remotely and also in person, and will be filmed and recorded for live and subsequent broadcast available through the council's website. The council is a data controller under the General Data Protection Regulations and the Data Protection Act 2018. We broadcast and record council meetings to fulfil a public task or obligation to enable members of the public to observe the democratic process. Data collected during the process will be retained in accordance with the council published policies available through the council's website. Members of the council are reminded that they should follow the council's established meeting protocols, including around the use of the chat facility, and that comments made in the chat facility are visible to all participants in the meeting, which may include members of the public who have also received invites to the meeting. Apologies if I was obviously just so keen to get on with the business today that I completely forgot that bit. So thank you for indulging me in that. Okay, so moving on to item number 3, that is the Policy and Resources Capital Budget and Council 24-28 programme. Matt, I believe is going to be taking us through that.
Yep, thank you, convener. This is the usual capital report. There's nothing too different in here. Section 1.3 just gives a highlight on the committee's own capital budget, which is on target, and no slippage in there, and there's some detail in that in section 3. 1.4 gives us an idea of the overall programme, so we're currently 2.564 million over allocation. That's well within our 5%, and I'll touch on that in a wee bit well. And we're also showing a net slippage of £159,000 in there. That's significant slippage, obviously, in the HSCP with the community hub, but that I believe is now progressing, so we should see some spending that in the new year, and that's offset with advancement in other services, particularly education and E&R. 1.5 just gives us a bit of a taste of what happened with the draft settlement. So it's obviously drafted at this stage, but we did get a higher grant than we'd initially estimated, of around about £630,000. That is reflected in these figures, and that's partly brought down the overall over allocation. In addition to this, we'll have a look at the estimate for the future year's capital, whether we need to bring that up a wee bit, and we'll report back on that in Alan's report on the 6th of March with the overall budget on those, that the increase in grant, and also what we will do with the available over commitment. That's about it. We're only asked to note the report and obviously the position with the budget coming in the 6th of March, but I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Any questions? Okay. Thank you, colleagues. So moving on to item number 4, this is the finance update, and Alan, you are going to be taking us through that.
Thanks, Domina. This is the usual report that comes up to this committee, and this update mostly focuses on issues progress within revenues and benefits. The main items I would highlight are good progress in respect to the pension age heating payment, with all payments having been made, and now the team processing credits for those individuals whose council tax account went into credit. There's an update in respect to e-billing, for which the implementation is imminent, and there is a proposal linked to increased funding in respect of the Scottish Welfare Fund to make £100 each in support payments to eligible claimants. And Tracy is on the call, who can answer more technical questions around that proposal. And it's also proposed that any unspent balance should be carried forward for future years, combined with the anti-poverty committee money, to bring back a more comprehensive proposal around support to do with heating as part of in time for the 2025 winter as well. And finally, there's an update in respect of proposals to expand the internal audit shared service, which elected members will know is not proceeding. But I'm happy to answer any questions, and I say Tracy's here to answer more detailed questions in respect to Scottish Welfare Fund.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Robertson and then Councillor McCabe.
Thanks very much, convener. No issue at all with the recommendation about the £100 for people who are eligible for that funding, but I'm just aware that there's now a significant amount of money being made available directly from energy companies for people who are in any kind of fuel debt, and it seems to be without a lot of the kind of criteria based application that other funds in the past have been, and I'm just hoping that kind of dovetails in some way with what we provide, and £100 may not be sufficient for everybody who's in that context, and therefore I'm wondering if I can get some information to Tracy and the team who can maybe disseminate that out to people as well, because it's perhaps a larger pot of money that Inverclyde residents can access to support them at this time if they are in difficulty with their fuel payments.
I totally agree. There's a lot of energy companies that do have that pot of money, and sometimes they are quite proactive in reaching out, but I think some people discount themselves from being eligible for support. So Is that okay for us to get that information?
Through you and again, Tracy, who sits on the Financial Inclusion Partnership, to keep you right, I would imagine through the Financial Inclusion Partnership and our advice services, that sort of support will be intimated, and we're more than happy to feed into that. And I think this then links in with the wider report to report back on. I think we've said in the sort of late summer, early autumn, and what we do for 2025, because we've been in touch with and had a couple of meetings with Advice Direct Scotland, who provide real support in terms of and our routes into the energy companies with heating support. They're the Scottish Government appointed advisors, and if the council develops a relationship and can agree a support process with them, I think that will absolutely achieve what council officers identifying there is a holistic sort of heating support package.
Thank you. And I think with the Scottish Welfare Fund, using this money in this way, it's going to reach a much wider demographic of people compared to some of the other targeted funding that we've had come up from ourselves and other facilities. Do you want to come back
in? It was one of the element of that I actually forgot to say, sorry. Actually, in the next couple of weeks, the energy companies are coming to Inverclyde, actually, just to have a kind of drop-in for people to be able to access. So that's maybe a more kind of acute opportunity, and once I've got information about that, I'll make sure that is passed down, because obviously there's the generic information about what's happening all the time, but if they're coming to Inverclyde, then people may have a closer chance of getting access.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Wilkerson. Councillor McCabe.
Thanks, Convener. A couple of questions around paragraph 3.3 and 3.11. So, point 3, I don't know if Stuart's best placed to advise us on this. Has there been any progress with the owners of the former Amazon building and getting a new tenant? And related to that is obviously the fact that EE has relocated from Greenock to Glasgow. Do we understand if we're likely to get an application for a relief in terms of that building? And again, have we get any knowledge as to any potential new occupants for that building? And in terms of 3.11, to ask Alan, do we know why, or can we hear why the third council has decided not to progress the option of a shared services project? Because obviously we've tried shared services for many years now, and it seems it's a real struggle to get people to engage, other councils to engage. And in terms of something like internal audit, you'd have thought that would be one of the easier functions to establish a wider shared service arrangement on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McCabe. So I'll ask first of all for Stuart to come in on the questions you've asked about the various sites, and then Alan can come in on the shared services.
For you, Convener, with regards to the Amazon site, Councillor McCabe, we're aware that there's been further inquiries about the site, but no confirmed tenant. I'm not aware of any request at this moment in time for relief on the EE building.
Okay, Alan, on the second.
Very convener, and I'm just looking to Tracy there. I take it the team have they received an application with respect to the EE building?
Alan, no, there hasn't been an application for empty property relief for the former Amazon, for the former EE premises.
Okay, thank you, thanks Tracy. And in terms of the shared service, I think as Councillor McCabe alluded to, we've been at the shared services game for decades, really, and there's always a reason why it doesn't work, and the reasons are wide and varied, or these people at different points of time have different expectations. And I think, to be fair to the third council, because I wouldn't want in any shape or form, particularly in a public forum, to say it's their fault. It isn't. It's just that we're at different stages of our evolution. It's a different size of council compared to Inverclyde and Western Berkshire Council, different salary structure, different arrangements. And I think it's about capacity to undertake what would be quite a big change in terms of harmonising terms and conditions and work processes at a time maybe where there's lower hanging fruit for them to help balance the budget. So their transformation team has only got a finite capacity, and it was felt the benefits for them were lower than other things that their team were working on, and so at this point in time they didn't proceed. But saying that, we have agreed as a council to share 2 more posts around the internal audit team of Western Berkshire. They're out to advert at the moment, and we'll just do our best to make the Western Berkshire relationship we've got as fruitful as possible.
Thank you. Stephen, does that answer all your questions?
Yeah, I think I think I did ask Stuart if there was any progress in terms of finding a new occupant for the EE, and I know there are commercial sensitivities here because it's a privately owned building. But is he able to say anything publicly around that?
Through you, convener, apologies, Councillor McCabe, for my oversight. I'm not aware of any inquiries in respect of the EE building at this moment in time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, officers, for answering those questions. So, Councillor Curley, then Councillor Moran.
Thank you. Convener, just with respect to 3.6 council tax online services, page 56, and it's also good that we're getting a new system up running in February 2025. I'm conscious of the fact this will be part of the digital plan to upgrade a number of our online systems, and I'm just wondering, will that system also be able to do other online payments as well? As it comes to mind with the garden waste payments, etc. And obviously, there's coming in February 2025, which obviously is now, will also be more mobile phone friendly, because it's one of the comments I'm getting back is that it's difficult to actually do these things on the phone.
Okay. Alan, are you able to answer that, or is there another officer better placed?
Through yourself, convener. So actually in digital modernisation, so there's a number of systems we're putting online to try and improve customer services. I don't think garden waste is one of them at this moment in time. And we've reached a stage where we are now a super licence holder, so we should be able to expedite and use more systems now, because we've implemented it in a number of places across the council. And I don't know about mobile phone. I'll see if Tracy has any information in relation to that, but what we've done is use the same systems that other local authorities across the west of Scotland have used, so it should be easier, but I'm not sure, because I haven't tried it, if I'm honest with you, Councillor Curley, whether it could be used on a mobile phone easily or not.
Okay, Tracy, you wanted to come in?
Through you, convener. I understand that yes, it will be compatible with mobile phones to sign up for e-billing and to complete application forms.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question?
And that's principally for the council tax services at the moment. But I'm just questioning we're asking for a lot of people to pay things online. There are just the abilities for people to pay in cash. So it's we should go through the whole process to ensure that we get as easy as possible for online payment. And most people have the phone in rather than a PC, etc. So I'm just trying to go through that whole process to make sure that we're making it as easy as possible. If people don't have as ready access to cash or the old-fashioned systems of checks and things like that.
Okay, I definitely agree, Councillor Curley. So, Councillor Moran?
I think it's about the shared services. I mean, back historically here, the Scottish Government instituted Scotland Excel, which meant that all the councils, if they get together, they could get greater savings. And it was led by Mr. John McClellan, who was the plant director at IBM at the time. I really remember, but also remember the shared services. And at that time, we spoke to Renfrewshire, East Renfrewshire, and Barnes, Eastern Barnshire, Western Barnshire, and North Ayrshire to try and broker some sort of shared services. And I can assure you that there wasn't the capacity in our appeal to do it. We were certainly talking appeal, but it was a case of, in my opinion, the bigger ones wanted to take over, and the small ones wanted to keep it independent. And that's how it never came nothing. That's my opinion. I just think that people want to keep in their own council, everything else. And they say the bigger ones want to take over us, the small ones would do it themselves. They want them to maintain their independence. And I think that's the reason that the shared services is fell apart.
Okay.
The negotiations.
Thank you, Councillor Moran. Councillor McCormick?
Yeah, just to let Chris Curley know that I paid for my garden permit this morning and I used my phone.
So,
Oh,
well, Chris, if
okay.
Councillor McCormick can do it, anybody can do it.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor McCormick.
I'll be trying myself shortly as well.
But you can do the timetable, man.
Okay, so just to confirm, is committee content with accepted recommendations 2.1 and 2.2?
Agreed.
Yep, agreed. Okay, thank you, colleagues. So item number 5 is the corporate policy performance update, November 24 to February 25. Morning.
Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon. I'll run through the various themes of this report in turn. The first one relates to the young person's guarantee. You'll see it's national commitment to make every 16 to 24-year-old in Scotland an opportunity. We are currently carrying out a different number of activities that tie in to this guarantee, and we don't have additional work if we were to commit ourselves to the plan. And also there's value in our against exploitation without in paragraph 3.5. So we are looking for companies in approval to progress that pledge. Secondly, the report talks about best value developments. We have an indicative timescale for our control of audit report, which is our big audit report, and that's in the period in October 25 to August 26 for publication. And we know that our annual best value thematic inspection next one will focus on the theme of transformation. The CMT has been discussing transformations, that's a key theme. We had a session with the improvement service and the executive corporate management team on the 23rd of January. And I understand there was an action agreed following audit committee, but we also hold a session for elected members, so arrangements for that are being progressed. The report then goes on to provide an update in terms of participatory budgeting and gives commentary on related community development activity. And then moves on to talk about report for Article 250, a public consultation has taken place post the end of January, and obviously we're just gathering that feedback, and that's to get feedback from a range of individuals and community groups on what projects could be badged under that heading. And we've also created branding to support regional community. And I'll bring further updates back to committee once we've obviously digested that feedback that we've pulled together in a more comprehensive plan. And last but not least, at the Public Service Awards in December, the Council's winner of the Sustainability Award in recognition of working on peatland restoration and tree planting.
Okay, thank you, Mona. So first of all, just want to acknowledge the team that won that award. I think it's a similar award to what we won at Causeless, so a lot of good work being done there. And I think the team should be proud of themselves for winning that. Also, just the young person's guarantee itself, I think that's a really important thing that we do to try and give the best outcomes for our young people in this area. So, and the Port Glasgow 250, I'm sure we're all looking forward to hearing about the consultation from that. I can see Councillor McCabe has got his hand up. Do you want to come in?
Yeah, thanks, Katrina. Again, a couple of questions. In terms of the young person's guarantee, I mean, it would be useful to get a report. I don't know whether this is an appropriate committee or another committee, but it'd certainly be useful to get a report on, I suppose, how successful we've been in ensuring that every young person in Inverclyde who is 16 to 20 that opportunity. And I suppose, what does it mean? Are they entitled to more than one opportunity between being 16 and 24? Or is it simply one opportunity? I think it would be useful to get a report and understand who has the responsibility ultimately of engaging with these young people, because we do know that quite a lot of young people are hard to reach as well, particularly obviously when they leave school. So it would be useful maybe to get a more detailed report on that. And the second question is on participatory budgeting 3.15, that we've made this return to the Scottish Government. Have we had any feedback from the Scottish Government on the return that we've made? And do we understand sort of where other councils are in terms of participatory budgeting?
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. So on the young person's guarantee, I'll pass that over to Stuart to comment on whether a report could be brought back and whether it would be this committee or maybe another committee. Okay, I think potentially Okay, Louise.
Through yourself, convener, I'm happy to bring a report back in relation to this, and between the corporate management team we'll work out what's the best committee for it to go to, because obviously it links to employability and opportunities, and we do a lot of work in that space, but it also links to education and communities, and so we'll work out the best place for it to go, but we're happy to bring a report back.
Okay, perfect. And then Tony, can you come in the participatory budgeting?
Thanks, convener. We don't normally get any feedback from the Scottish Government around their PB return. They tend not to publish what each council's doing and rather just take a kind of the total up to say a percentage of council budgets across Scotland has been allocated to this. So, but we've never had any specific feedback. However, I think there are challenges right across the board. Some councils more successful than others. Others have never participated in it since it was introduced. So it's quite a varied picture, and I'm not sure about what the future of PB will be at this point.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Stephen, are you content with those responses?
Yeah, again, in terms of PB, I think it would be useful to a sort of further update in terms of where PB is going, because obviously there's been a lot of discussion over a long number of years around PB between the Scottish Government, COSLA, individual local authorities, and it certainly here it hasn't made the progress that I suppose was anticipated at the time, and as Tony said, probably in many other places. So it'd be useful to understand whether it's just withering on the vine or whether it is something that there is going to be efforts to sort of relaunch it and reinvigorate it.
Okay,
I mean, we'd have sort of similar annual process where we identify efficiency savings each year, and I think Alan reports on that. And again, I don't know where that ever went, whether that's ever achieved anything in particular. I don't know whether PB has actually got a future or not.
Okay, Louise, do you want to come back in on that?
Through yourself, convener, just to say, I think I'm right in saying that COSLA has to do a piece of work in relation to participative budgeting, and it might be worthwhile their council linking with COSLA to look at the timeline and then maybe bringing something back rather than trying to bring something too early. That's okay.
No, I'm content with that. Councillor Robertson.
Thanks. Thanks, Convener. I always like to take the opportunity to talk about my thoughts on PB whenever the PB comes up, because I think what I think about PB is a good thing, and I don't think it's necessarily what we think of when we think of PB. I think it shouldn't be a standalone separate thing where there's a top sliced 1%. I think it should be genuinely looking at the participatory way that we use the budgets that we have. The example I always give is about look after children. If you want to know how to use the money that we have in that system, then good people we speak to are the young people, the people who look after them, and the people who support the young people wherever they happen to be. And that type of conversation, that type of process being part of what we do. And I've said this, if you could go back probably since the minute and I would have walked into this chamber, that's been my thoughts on PB. And actually I think the narrative that we've got in the section of the report here shows some of the qualitative conversations that we do have, the process that we do have. And I think maybe what we haven't then done is the step that puts the quantitative alongside the qualitative and said, and actually this results in X, Y and Z happening within our spend as a council. I was coming in going, where are we with PB? And I'm actually now kind of going, maybe we shouldn't be beating ourselves up quite so spectacularly, because I think a naturalistic way of doing it is the kind of direction that we're going in. So if we are chatting to COSLA, I think that may be worth saying.
I think part of what we can read in 314 through to 318 is that we are doing it slightly differently rather than having that whole choose what you want best. Because ultimately what happens, we've seen that with other areas, with other schemes, where you end up with whoever just has the loudest voice and has the most tokens put in the bin, that's where the money goes. So I think the way that we've been trying to do it has been trying to take it away from that and trying to make it more valuable. I can't see anybody else with their hands up. Oh, sorry, Chris.
I think Tony was going to come in first with that comment.
Or Tony. Sorry, Tony, do you want to come in? I couldn't see you over there. Sorry.
Yeah, I suppose it was just on the back of Councillor Roberts there, that I think we do a lot of consultation, we do a lot of deliberation around some of the choices that we've made. I think we've taken quite a strict view on what PB actually is in terms of the voting. So it's difficult to know what other councils do as well from that perspective, but we've taken it from quite a strict view on that. Have we asked people to vote on certain options and then implemented that? No, we haven't, but we have done a significant amount of work consulting with people around savings and also options for budget as well, which is reflected in the return. I hope that's helpful.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Louise, you want to come in?
It's do yourself, Vina, just to add to what Tony said, there's actually very strict rules by the Scottish Government on what is PB. And so that is why our returns have always traditionally been so low, because all the consultation, and the example that Councillor Robertson gives actually in relation to care experience, young people wouldn't necessarily come into line with what we've got to do in relation to this return. And so I don't think it's not that we're not talking to people about how we use our budget, about how we engage with the public, is that we don't meet the criteria for Scottish Government that they've applied to PB when we do these returns. Just for information for all of the members.
Okay. Are you wanting to come back in?
Yeah, I will come back. So I think I'm for the record, I'm saying I think we are doing more than we might be suggested for doing, arguably in a better, more sustainable and genuinely participatory way. And I don't know if maybe there is, if COSLA are doing some work on this, maybe it is the time to say the Scottish Government participatory budgeting can be about voting, it can be about that type of thing, because we know that some people have more agency, we know that some people have more resource that they can throw, more people that they can get out to vote, quite literally, and actually maybe use this as an opportunity through COSLA to reframe what actual participatory budgeting can be on a proper, sustainable, added value way for communities across Scotland.
Thank you, Councillor Robertson. So from that, will we get in touch with COSLA and see what they're doing around PB? I think we're already involved in the conversations around PB with COSLA, aren't we?
Through yourself, Convener, I think it's for us. So the rules are set by the Scottish Government in relation to
So it's
PB.
not for us to change them.
So, but we can make, and as we have made representation through COSLA and to the Scottish Government, that actually we do engagement, we just don't do it, and we're quite consistent, and I'm sure we're not the only local authority across Scotland that's quite consistent in that message, that we are engaging with the public, but we are not doing PB and the return to the way that they that the strict criteria that they put around it. But we'll make sure that we continue to feed that into the process.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Carroll?
Yeah, it's just I think a lot of the other comments that have been said about the other things. I just want to touch on the Port Glasgow 250 brand, and obviously the recent wording of the consultation. We put a couple of suggestions in. And I missed my opportunity to put some more in, so you'll be glad of that. But I was just looking to see what's the sort of timescales for this coming back to getting a firmed up programme. And obviously it's great to see that the actual brand has been created and there'll be a brand toolkit. But again, how we get that out to people, because the more we get people talking about it, the more it becomes a thing, and the more we can actually get a bit of buzz. If things are online, etc., Glasgow 250, it becomes more of a thing that can maybe attract people into town.
Sure, thank you to you, Trevina. We management will help you back to the next committee in terms of the consultation and overview of the events, and also just see the report, our communication plan to be developed to share that plan, so we'll capture and update on that as well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, colleagues, so is everybody content to accept the recommendations at 2.1? Perfect, thank you. Okay, so item number 6 is the Inverclyde Council Plan, mid-year progress report. And Morna, that's yourself.
Thank you, Trevina. In accordance with the government's arrangements agreed when we established the updated community plan, a mid-year progress report is provided for policy review, and Appendix 1 contains detail of that. You'll see a range of initiatives, a range of performance indicators and project information. This will sit alongside our annual report, which will cover developments from 1st October 24 onwards, then that will come back to committee in due course. There's a wealth of information behind it, we're happy to be involved in that.
Okay, thank you very much, Maura. Does anybody have any questions? Councillor Robertson?
Thank you. I'm going to take the opportunity, Community, if it's okay, to ask a question based on page 47, which is, and it's actually the last paragraph on the page there about multiply projects, which obviously says full details of the underspend have been reported to the Environment Regeneration Committee, and that's what's noted in our plan, which we're looking at today. But I know I've certainly asked for a bit of clarity on that offline with officers, and I'm just wondering if there is an update on what the actual position is in terms of that underspend.
Okay, Stuart, can you come in and answer that, please?
Yeah, through you, convener. Councillor Robertson, there's no change, or there's no substantial change in terms of the underspend. With regards to the council's own community learning and development projects, we're expected to almost have full spend, with the exception of one, which is a member of staff has been released. So very little change in terms of what was reported previously to the Environment Regeneration Committee.
That's Robertson, are you want to come back in?
I might need to speak to Stuart offline about that, because that is quite different from what was reported at the November committee, which was the last paper that we had on this. But we'll maybe take that offline then.
Yep, Stuart, would you be able to get in contact with Councillor Robertson out with the committee and have a conversation around this, please?
Happy to take it offline, convener.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Robertson, and thank you, Stuart, for that. Councillor Armstrong?
Thanks, convener. I attended an online seminar on the gender budgeting review of Scottish local authority budgets, and I sent a report on to Mona. And Inverclyde gets a positive mention in the report. But one thing they say is across all Scottish local authorities, there wasn't really a link in the budget preparation with the council plan. And I just wonder if we can try to link our spend to what we're trying to achieve. I mean, I think that personally, I think that would be a good thing. And as I say, in the report, it's noted that nobody, no authorities actually satisfactorily did that. But I think I've absolutely no issue at all with the council plan. It's very good. It's really just making sure that it sits behind, or is at least referred to when we're preparing our budgets. Thank you.
Okay, Alan, do you want to comment on that?
Thank you. The point that Councillor Armstrong makes is one which is very difficult to fully achieve, because of the way the budgets are constructed and the way that corporate plans and policies are constructed, because it's an iterative process. If you see what I mean, one doesn't drive the other. They both sort of are constantly being reviewed. I review the financial strategy every 6 months. The elected members agree a budget every year, and the corporate plan is reviewed on a 5-yearly basis, and then there's regular updates to committee. But just to reassure committee that when savings are agreed, absolutely the links to the corporate plan are in the implications, and equality assessments take into account, not just gender-based impacts, but all the impacts. And are factored in, and elected members get copies of all these equality statements, and they make their decisions. And when capital projects come forward, one of the challenges that officers will always give is, how does this tie in with the council's corporate priorities, etc. When the use of reserves is decided, how does that tie in with the council priorities? And they're challenges that elected members, I'm sure, will give each other as well. So I personally think there are very, very strong linkages between the council's stated priorities and how we spend our money. And I think the difficulties that the council will face is that unless budget settlements improve, they're going to have to look at saving money in some of these priority areas, and therefore it'll be a case of modifying the plans that we've got as a council. We maybe can't do everything that we want to do as a council. And I do recall several years ago, we tried to do a mapping exercise between the council's priorities and where the money was spent. And it was the high 90% of what we were spending you could link into education and lifelong learning, or caring for the vulnerable in the community, or anti-poverty, or economic regeneration. And so it was just to give the committee that reassurance that we're constantly looking at it, but there's no either silver bullet or golden thread, depending which analysis that you want to use, that fully ties up everything.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Alan. I think actually what you've just explained was very helpful, and even a paragraph, just as alluding to some of that would be, I think, very, very useful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Brennan.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, I didn't get the chance. I'm just responding to Councillor Armstrong's point about the gender budgeting consultation. I didn't get a chance to attend the sort of review of it this year, but I looked at the report that came out afterwards, and like yourself, probably I'm scanning through to see any references to Inverclyde. And I think, but the point that they make in it really is always that any budget decision that adversely impacts on care of young and or elderly and reducing those services is ultimately going to impact on women to a greater extent, and ultimately increase the gender pay gap. So looking at all those sort of concerns, anything that looks like that is going to have an impact on, just slightly more than 50% of our population. But that said, that's across the whole of Scotland, and not anything specifically related to Inverclyde. Because I think it was just, sometimes when you get these reports, it's easy just to say agreed, but just to kind of acknowledge all the work that is in here that's really significant. So many really kind of progressive, just different types of services and developments, like the early adopter childcare or the anti-poverty initiatives, the reshaping homelessness services. That's something that's been looked at and tried to be working towards for a good number of years, longer than I've been on this council, so people know much more about it than myself. But just to thank everybody for all their work going on as part of that. There's some really great stuff in here.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brennan. Okay, I can't see anybody else's lights on. I think it's important for us to recognise just the breadth of work that goes on in our council. When you read through this council plan, it's really just the wide range of services and support that we give people across our area. So we're being asked today to consider the council plan, which I think, based on the conversation today, it's clear that all of us have read this, or majority of us have read this, and we're asking for its publication on the council website to be approved. So is everybody content with that?
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on to item number 7, the Inverclyde Zero Waste Food Pantries. Tony.
Sorry, Natasha, for interjecting. I had connection issues at the beginning of this meeting, and I couldn't register through the roll call or declare any interests. I'm on the board of the Community Development Trust, so I don't feel I should take part in this discussion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Law, for intimating that. We'll take note of that. And are you wanting to still remain in the meeting whilst the discussion's undergoing and just not participate, or do you think you need to leave?
I'm probably best just to leave, just to keep myself.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Law.
Thank you.
We'll just move her to the vote.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Okay, Tony, are you coming in to speak on the food pantries? Fantastic.
Thanks, convener. So this report is giving the committee an update on the zero waste food pantries that are in operation at Grieve Road and also John Wood Street in Port Glasgow. Specifically, though, I'm asking for funding from the committee from the Anti-Poverty Fund to support the Grieve Road pantry until March 2026. I think we'd anticipated by now that the pantries would be largely kind of self-sufficient by now, but for various reasons kind of out with their control, to be honest, that's not been able to happen. So the Port Glasgow pantry is funded by the National Lottery, so I'm asking for additional funding from the Anti-Poverty Fund to support the Grieve Road pantry until March 2026. That will also allow the council to look at the whole food provision and pantry provision across Inverclyde and bring back recommendations at a future time around the future of the pantries in Inverclyde. So I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Councillor Curley.
Thank you. I think probably Tony's last comments there probably might preempt some of my comment. I've just been looking at, obviously, it's quite stark fact is we've got two pantries, and one has got funding from the National Lottery, and one is different funding. So I'm just wondering, and they're both what they call provided through ICDT. So I'm just wondering why is there these two distinct funding models? I know there's probably one happened, the port pantry happened, but I'm just wondering why there's not a more of a synergy between the two pantries and that we're taking them forward on the same basis. That's just the obvious question when I read the paper.
Yeah, that's great. I have asked that question as well on the education committees. Tony, do you want to come and give a answer to committee?
So the Greaves Road Pantry was an original anti-poverty funding initiative, and then ICDT got further funding from the lottery, and that allowed them to open a further pantry at Port Glasgow. So that's why they're funded differently, because the council only supported really the one at Greaves Road, and they felt they could expand into Port Glasgow and applied for funding as a result of that. So that's why they're both ending at different times, starting at different times, but this would allow us, and I don't know the outcome of the funding application yet from the National Lottery, but hopefully that would mean that the pantries would certainly continue for another year at least, and it will allow them to put in more sustainable measures for the future.
Okay, thank you. And I believe from what I'll bring Louise in a second is, as well, there's limited pots of money that's available for this sort of food provision, and I believe that everybody's applying for the same ones, and that's part of doing the review into what's provided across the whole area in regards to food stability. Louise, do you want to come in?
Through yourself, Convener, it's just to remind the elected members who may not have been with the council when we looked at the food pantry, which was in COVID times, that actually we were never going to fund the pantries on an ongoing basis. We were going to fund the pantries and then they were going to attract their own funding. And so we have funded one pantry and they have attracted funding for another pantry and opened that. But the sustainable model in relation to this needs to be looked at, which is, I think, Tony's suggestion when he says that he needs to review the totality of it and maybe something in the future.
Okay.
Yeah, my understanding from what Tony said is giving us a bit of space to come up with the more sustainable model.
Graham?
Yeah, thanks very much.
Sorry.
Fully support what was and follows the recommendations. I just wonder if Tony can help me understand. So we've got Everything Community Development Trust, which is a valuable part of our community. It's agile, it's well established, and within reason, it's well resourced. But it didn't seem very agile, taking 8 to 10 months to do things and 18 months to set this up and that up. I just think our CLD has supported some community groups, and within months we've had boxes ticked and they're moving forward with funding. Is there anything that Tony, as the officer here, do we have any challenges with the agility of the ICDT?
Okay, Tony.
I don't know if I can answer that at the moment. To be honest, we do support them obviously, and other funding applications, but I don't know if I can comment really on how agile they are as an organisation.
Thanks very much. I'm just disappointed that what I thought was a great organisation seems not to be performing great now. I know this is council business, that's the first sector independent organisation, but we do fund them, and it's on our agenda papers today. Thanks.
I'm just being reminded we need to be careful about what we say about external and partner organisations. Thanks, Tony, for coming back in on that one. Councillor McVeigh.
Yes, thanks, Convener. I'm also happy to support the recommendations. I think it's a very good report, and there is a lot in it. But for me, it highlights a lot of the good work that the Trust does, and they do a lot of good work. Maybe the timescales are not perfect, and I love that because you do a lot of good work. But it also demonstrates the good work that the pantries do within our communities, and it should be said that people visit them all over rather than just the two particular wards that it's located in. So, but I always get a little bit nervous when we look at maybe reviews and other proposals. So I'm just kind of looking for assurance from officers that both pantries will play a key part moving forward and be front centre with what we're trying to do here. Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks, Councillor McVeigh. Tony, are you able to come back in on that?
I suppose it just, you know, as a service, of course, you know, we're supportive of the pantry model. It does bring a lot of dignity to people that are accessing it in terms of food poverty and also providing volunteering. So the model itself is a good model, and I think, you know, we will support it where we can. I think, you know, there are definitely, we want them to be more sustainable. They should be more sustainable, self-sustaining, and we would like to get them onto that footing. But certainly, it is a model that is obviously preferable to the food bank model, because it does provide a different type of service to alleviate food poverty. So we will support them, and you know, in the shorter term, but obviously keep working with them to try and get them onto a more sustainable footing.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brooks.
Go back in, the Trust is very focused that pantries are part of the food security challenges. And you know, if there's a hierarchical structure, people go to every bag first, and then it's fantastic with progress to pantries. So it's not either or. I think we do need both, and then there's other factors of growing your own food and being part of the food network. So we both do need, as a community, we do need pantries, and we also need food banks.
No, I agree with what you're saying there, Councillor Brooks, because there's community fridges in some of our schools and things like that, and community centres, and I think it's important that we get that picture, which I think is why there's been an ask to actually have a look at the wider food network that we've got out there. I can't see anybody else. Oh, sorry, Councillor Curley.
Yeah, I think just on the food bank issue, I think the pantries do provide a sustainable way of providing food to people, but they also provide a sustainable way of redistributing food would otherwise go to waste, because there is that aspect to it as well. They are a green measure, so they're part of the market of food, to make sure we minimise food waste, and by doing that, we're also giving opportunities for people to get food at a reasonable price. At the moment, we do need food banks, but of course, as put on record, we don't want food banks.
No, I think if any of us could do something, it would be to eradicate the need for any form of poverty mitigation, including food banks. Okay, colleagues, I definitely can't see any hands up now. Is everybody content to agree 3.1? Okay, colleagues. Okay, so we'll bring in Councillor Law again and reconfirm that Councillor Law's. Yep.
Yeah, back in and I can hear, thank you.
Perfect, thank you, Councillor Law. We're moving on to agenda item number 8, which is the Greenock West and Carroll Bay Community Council interim election. We've got Councillor Paul Cassidy, who is our Community Council champion, along with us today, and it will be Peter McDonald who will be speaking to this item.
So through you, convener, members will be aware that there were community council elections at the start of 24, at which point Greenock West and Carroll Bay was re-established with a membership of 5. For the reasons set out in the report, that membership has now dropped to 3, with their maximum membership at 11. And with apologies to the committee for an arithmetic error at paragraph 3.4, there are therefore 8 vacancies potentially to be filled. In the terms of the scheme and following officer discussions with the group, it's the view of officers that this is appropriate time to undertake an interim election, and authority is sought to appoint the returning officer and progress with that. A timeline set out in the report and draft. We've also sought authority to vary that should be required, just to provide flexibility. However, I can confirm the Community Council are aware of the proposed timeline, and we're not presently anticipating any change. As indicated in the report, CLD colleagues have an ongoing dialogue with the Community Council on the question of recruitment, and in particular, there's a meeting coming up, I think, in the course of the next week, where they're meeting with the remaining members and also another 4 who are interested in joining. And I also understand there's an overlap with a Gourock's Community Conversation Week that's been organised by both Greenock West and Carroll Bay and Gourock Community Council, which is obviously a good opportunity for promotion. The rest is pretty much as set out in the report, so I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Councillor McCabe, do you have any questions for Peter?
Content with the recommendations in the report, I'm just going to ask Peter, has any progress been made on those community councils that weren't formed?
I think if it's okay with you, Councillor McCabe, what we'll do is we'll focus on this item, with it being Greenock West and Carwell Bay Community Council, and focus the discussion on that, and then we can come back to that at the end if that's okay with you.
Oh, that's fine. Convener,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Just so that we're concentrating our discussions this afternoon. Okay, Councillor Cassidy, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Convener. I've just got a few comments to make. First on our community councils general, then of the one that the report's the subject of. As colleagues will recall, last year we held successful community council elections, resulting in formation of 9 community councils out of possible 11. And since then, I've had the opportunity to visit them all, and I'm pleased to say they're all progressing well. It's particularly good to see some of our newest community councils and benefited from the excellent support of Hugh Scott's team, as well as Callum McClelland and Peter McDonald, our community council liaison officer. Turn to report before you today. Greenock West and Carwell Bay community councils unfortunately found itself in an unforeseen situation. One of its members has moved to a new community council area, and another councillor, Ian Heller, has been successfully elected to this council. And while this presents a challenge for the community council, I see it as a positive reflection of the strong link between our local democracy and the council chamber. It's encouraging to see yet another community councillor take on a role in this council. Greenock West and Carwell Bay has long been one of the most active and effective community councils, tackling numerous local issues over the years. Every confidence that it will attract your interest during this process, and I'm particularly see the community council taking steps to recruit new members. I trust our staff team has the resources needed to facilitate this, and we'll do so in partnership with the community council. And as community council champion, I'll be doing my part to ensure this process is successful. And I look forward to seeing Greenock West and Carwell Bay Community Council up and running as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cassidy. Do any other members want to come in on this area-specific community council? No? Okay, Peter, are you able to provide a response to Councillor McCabe around the general progress on non-formed community councils?
Sure. So there has been, CLD colleagues have been active in those areas. I can't give you full detail on that, but what I can confirm is, in accordance with the remit, officers are going to bring a full report to the full council on the activities of all the community councils since the review and since the elections. And we'll provide more detail on that at that time. And that's been drafted just now. It's with officers for comment and will be coming to a future meeting of the full council.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Councillor Brennan?
Thanks very much, Convener. I just welcome Councillor McCabe's question about the unformed community councils, and that's good to hear what Peter's saying about a report coming, and I think it would be great to get that point included in it, because it's good to see as a Ward 4 councillor that there's going to be an interim election for this Greenock West and Carwell Bay Community Council, but elected members will know that we're also really keen to see something more happening in terms of community councils within the town centre as well. So it'd be great to hear what progress has been made in that area. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Brennan. Okay, so today we're being asked to agree the recommendation of 2.1, 2.2 and 2.3, which is that we agree to hold the interim election, that we appoint the Chief Executive as the returning officer and give her delegated authority, and then 2.3 is the timetable in Appendix 1. And the writing's all there, so is everybody content with that? And hopefully we'll see a community council being re-established there. Thank you, colleagues. Moving on to item 9, this is our remit audit committee. It's asking us to note the corporate risk register. Are colleagues content to note? Good, thank you. And then item 10 is our policy updates paper. I'll pass over to Morna, who will give us an overview of this.
Thank you. We have been updating a series of policies and recommended policy resources committee for approval. The protocol 12 brought to since 2024, so 4 more to present to you this afternoon. They are infection control policy, reservist policy, building and admin policy, responsibility and performance policy. The appendix 1 gives you the overview with the policies and develops in appendices 2 onwards.
Okay, thank you, Morna. Councillor Robertson.
Thanks, Fiona. It's not even a question, it's a comment. I'm just literally what you've just said. You've outlined the number of policies that you've brought since June, and we just were kind of reflecting in our room before we came in here that it's a huge piece of work. It's been a really necessary piece of work to make sure that the policies that underpin what we do are relevant, up to date, and is bit purposes it can be, and we just want to kind of express thanks to the team for that work, which isn't done yet, I'm sure, but and then you'll need to start again. But it's not gone unnoticed that it's been done.
I agree, Councillor Robertson. Councillor Brooks.
Yeah, thanks very much, convener. Appendix 3 is the reservists policy. So in April 2024, we had 7 reservist employers that obviously employed. That may have changed. I just wonder, when we're doing recruiting, do we potentially fish? There's a number of charities who obviously trying to find reservists or veterans job. Do we particularly target them for employment, Chris?
So in line with our Armed Forces Covenant Code accreditation, obviously we proactively seek to recruit veterans and reservists where possible, and we do work with obviously a range of organisations that in turn support veterans to see whether we can attract them to work with us.
Okay, yeah, there's just some very specific employee charities. The one I'm thinking of is nice active in Scotland. It should be. So if we were to ask them, the next time, that might encourage them to be a better footprint in Scotland.
Yep, Louise, the Chief Executive would like to come in.
Through yourself, convener, it's just to remind members that we have a double tick in relation to veterans, and actually we do all of our recruitment currently through My Job Scotland. Some of it to do with contracts and things like that. But what we could do, if it's helpful, is signpost. If you were to give us some of the organisations, we could signpost them so that they know that we all do our recruitment through My Job Scotland.
Okay, thank you. I actually do have a question, which I'm not quite sure how this works with me being convener, but I do have a question around it. It's the first policy, so the infection control policy. So there's 10 elements listed in that. How do you make sure that that's actually enforced? Because quite often, like, how do you make sure employees are doing simple things like washing their hands or staying off when they're ill? I know that we've obviously got hybrid working now, which mitigate that, but there are some people that are still in frontline roles where they must come into a place of work, and I'm just very aware that a lot of flus, a lot of viruses could actually be mitigated if people stayed home when they were ill, or if they washed their hands or even did something as simple as covering the face when they sneeze or cough. So I suppose it's great having this policy, but how do we actually make sure we're implementing it when there might be some people who don't wash their hands or cover their face and all this simple stuff,
Sure, thank you. Certainly, I think let's go with this was the messaging around coming into the office when you've got a sniffle or has a change. I mean, the culture has changed, and you're right, there is some flexibility for those who have the option to work on a hybrid basis, for them to work at home and they're potentially infectious to other people. But I do acknowledge that it's not just talent of the council workforce, and obviously a significant portion have come into them to do the work, and therefore they are at risk of spreading infection. So we have to update the general guidance that we share with managers and employees that ties in with us. Obviously with signage, etc.
I was going to say there's some things
simple, kind of very practical stuff. And obviously around the influence of people's behaviours as best we can, but it's not a simple thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that as a behavioural thing. And once again, thank you on behalf of this committee and the council for all the policies that are coming forward. We're sure that there's a few more to come, but thank you very much. Is committee minded to accept these policies?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, that is our meeting finished for today. Thank you, colleagues, for your input and your contributions, and have a lovely afternoon.
Thanks.